Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursday. How is everybody doing out there in the world?
What's going on?
Hey.
I'm gonna bring this mic up
We
here.
are in, oh, good Lord, July already.
Ain't that something?
Over half of the year is gone.
Don't say it.
Oh.
Don't say it.
We're seeing COVID kind of in the rearview mirror. Finally, thank you everybody for tuning in to Jazz Cats on Wjzz Cool TV.
What it do?
You already know the coolest station in the world. I am like a little kid in a candy store right now. I got one of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Bless you.
Hanging in the studio with me, Mr. Gerard Gibbs. How are you today, my darling?
Girl, Miss Dawn, how you be? First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to you and your staff for inviting me to be a part of this endeavor. And hey, this is a wonderful thing, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. And for those of you who are tuned in, listening, watching, sharing, commenting, subscribing, if y'all don't know who Gerard Gibbs is,
shh,
y'all sleeping under a rock somewhere.
Shh.
This
Don't
dude,
give away my secrets.
I think the first time I saw him play maybe was at the Bistro.
Oh wow.
I think that was the first time that I saw you play. I think you were with Brandon,
Mm-hmm.
Carl Holmes maybe.
Yep.
And I'm like, my dear sister Betty, one of your biggest fans. and and I'm like, dang, this dude is pretty cool,
Bless you.
So, start going every week, watching you play, and now just got to know you as a good friend,
Indeed.
extended, family.
Indeed.
Brother.
Indeed.
So what's been going on? I was checking out your lengthy bio.
Okay.
Lord have mercy, Jesus. Who, and I'm looking,
He's
and I'm
been
like,
very, very good.
I'm like looking, I'm like, who has he not played with?
Well, I'm just very grateful
Mm-hmm.
that I have had an opportunity to play with some of the best musicians some musicians that I grew up staring at on album covers, from Stevie Wonder to Gladys Knight to Pieces of a Dream. You wouldn't have told me as a young child that some 15, 20, 25 years later you're going to be playing with these people. I'd have been like, look here now.
Whatever.
While I'm sitting up here struggling trying to get through a sonatina, you trying to tell me
that I'm gonna be on stage
I'm gonna be playing with Gladys Knight or Stevie
Right.
Wonder or Pieces of a Dream, Ronnie Laws, all of these wonderful musicians, George Benson,
Yeah.
my hero Richard Groove Holmes. You wouldn't have been able to convince me of it.
Right. Now, looking at your bio, starting out, young kid. Most kids, when they had, piano lessons growing up, I didn't. They kicked and screamed, for that half hour.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, I grew up with a young lady, her mom had her in piano lessons. And
Okay.
she complained, whined, bitched, moaned all the time. But every Saturday for about an hour, she was in the living room playing. What kind of drew you, I guess, to the keys? What was your inspiration?
Well, I have to say my inspiration began with my father. My dad was a concert pianist,
Okay.
and so was my mother. So I was doomed from conception.
Really?
So, as a matter of
Wow.
fact, that's how my parents met. My father had my mother as a student, and
Wow.
so that is how that relationship budded. But at that time they were 8 years apart. So you got to remember,
Yes.
here
Yep.
it is. My dad is 22, 23 and my mother is 14.
Uh-oh.
You know, so my grandmother wasn't
Was
having
not having
it.
that
Neither
at
was my
all.
grandfather,
No,
God rest his soul.
absolutely
It was
not.
like, you know, you need to go on somewhere with that.
Right.
Just teach my daughter and beat it like Michael.
Exactly, exactly.
So,
Leave my baby alone.
leave my baby alone. So, but as their you know their teacher student relationship developed, you know, as they got older, you know, my mother soon became 18. My dad was 26.
Yes.
And
Fair
so
game.
then now things can kind of loosen
Playing
up a
field
little
is
bit.
a little more level
Yeah,
now.
they could loosen up, and you know, the rest is history.
Right.
But to get back to answering your question, so both my parents taught me and my sister for a few years, but then as they started ascending the corporate ladder, then they you know, got to a point that they couldn't teach us, so then they sent us on to have private lessons.
Right.
And for me, where I caught the bug was I had to have been about 3 or 4 years old, and my dad was playing Richard Groove Holmes's live at Count Basie's called Living Soul. When I heard that, I was done.
At the age of 3 or 4?
3 or 4. I just knew I needed to know what was this big brown thing that this big fat guy was sitting at. Because you know, back in the day, we didn't have videos, we didn't have internet, we didn't have none of that. Yeah. So all you could do is use your imagination, and I'm staring at I'm staring at this album cover while I'm listening, and I'm just envisioning what's happening in this during this live recording. Wow. And so then my dad told me, he said, well, that's called the Hammond B3. It's a Hammond B. It's an organ. It's a Hammond B3. And so then, you know, I was like, well, who's playing the bass? And he says, well, no, Groove is playing the bass. He's playing it with his left hand. And I'm here, you know, and he said he's playing it also. He's playing part. He said, now you hear that part? He's playing the bass with his feet. I'm like, wow. How, you know, how was that happening? How was he able to do all of this? So when I was about 5, my father took me to Baker's Keyboard Lounge. And that's where I had a chance to meet Richard Groove Holmes in person. And at the time when he brought me there, Groove was carrying a guitar. I guess he was carrying it for his guitarist, or he was carrying it for something. But in the mind of a 5-year-old,
he plays guitar.
I'm thinking, I'm like, I thought he played.
Larger than life person.
I thought he plays organ. Why is he carrying a guitar?
So now you're confused.
And so I'm confused. And so Dad, you know, said, Gerard, this is Richard Groove Holmes. And Groove's looking down at me and said, hey, how you doing? Yeah. And so I just remember, I remember this. I remember looking up at him like this. Wow. And I said, I play your records all the time. And he just laughed.
See, and that had to be a huge compliment for him, coming, you know, from a little, what they used to call him back then, a whippersnapper.
A whippersnapper.
Yeah, coming from a little whippersnapper like you at that time.
It was it was really, and you know, because you got to remember now, all I knew about Richard Groove Holmes was his pictures, and so now to see that, wow, he's alive, he's moving, he's real.
Yes.
So then, that was when I was 5, and so then some 8 years later, right before I, you know, right after I came out of Obion, and was getting ready to start Cass Tech, in 1981, I had surgery on both my legs. I had knee surgery on both my legs, a corrective knee surgery, and so while I was at home recovering, Dad made arrangements for Groove Holmes to come. He came to my house because I didn't know that Groove and my dad, you know, they knew each other well, and they went back, and so here it is. I'm, you know, I'm in a wheelchair, and the doorbell rings, and I'm on crutches,
Oh dear.
and I'm answering the door, and then he's standing there, and I'm looking at him. I'm like,
So now, did your dad send you to open the door?
well, I guess that they played the role, like
Okay,
nobody else
gotcha.
could answer,
Oh yeah.
and
Okay.
and
Gerard,
I
go get
looked
the door.
I looked at I opened the door, and I was like, Richard Groove Holmes.
Uh oh.
And so then he said, "Yep," and I was
Wow.
done. I was just
Oh.
completely done. And so that from that point on, from 1981 to 1991, when he died in June 20. As a matter of fact, this past June 29th marked the 30th anniversary of his passing,
Okay.
of his transition.
Wow, 30 years. Okay.
30 years. And so for those 10 years, I had a wonderful relationship. I could call him up, ask him questions, and I still got a tape. I'm still trying to find it. I got a cassette tape of when Groove was at the house and he was playing the piano, showing me how to play a blues, showing me how to play certain songs. And I wore that tape out, playing it over and over and over again.
Okay, time for you to find it.
Staying up until 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. Now, he's on weeknights. So to answer your question, that was my motivation for practicing, because Groove Holmes was in my house. He was just here.
So you had to do him right.
Yeah, so I just learned everything that I could. I learned by ear, and commingled with the piano lessons that I was still taking at that time up until I graduated high school. And then the rest is history. From there, I went on to the University of Michigan. I was part of a band there, and just kept developing my craft. And then after I graduated in 1990 and came onto the scene, I started working around town. I started working at this place called not the locker room, but the boardroom. That was on. It used to be called Teresa's. It was over on 6 Mile, just west of Schaefer.
Schaefer, yes.
It's on the right hand side.
Yep.
And that's where I met some folks. I met Phil Hale for the first time. Jaribu Shaheed.
Dynamic dude on keys.
Mike Brown, drummer, God rest his soul. Mike Fleming, but the person who like got me around at the very first time was Robert Lowe, God rest his soul. And I joined his band first, and I remember we did the festival that was at the it was in Pontiac at the Phoenix Center when it first opened.
Wow.
And so I was playing around there, and that time, that's when I met Teddy Harris. He was in the band. My buddy Lamont Williams was playing drums at the time. Henry Mann on bass. So that's where I started getting, my introduction. And then Lamont introduced me to Calvin Brooks. God rest his soul. And I started working with Calvin Brooks, and so it was me and Calvin Brooks and Lamont Williams and Henry Mann and Hari Paris, my big sis. I was part of as a matter of fact, I had the opportunity to record for the very first time in 1991. My Favorite Thing, I'm pretty sure you
Are you serious?
That's me playing keyboards on that record. Yes, a young
Gerard,
23-year-old Gerard Gibbs. That's me.
Knew that.
That's me. My buddy Skip Pruitt, he was on that record. Harvey Thompson. That's where I started, cutting my teeth. And then one night while I was doing weekly jam sessions at the boardroom, young flautist by the name of Althea Renee just happened to be in there. She loved the way that I play. Well, listen, I need you to come down to Club Penta. I need you to check out my band, David Miles and the Milestones. So I came down there, and then that's where I met Greg Dokes, God rest his soul. I met Audrey Northington. I met David
Lord.
Miles, Carl Holmes.
Yeah.
Just a host of different musicians. And then really by being with David Miles and Milestones, that was where I really cut my teeth.
Okay.
And really where my big brothers David Miles and Carl Holmes really stayed in my rear end.
Good.
About learning how to play those parts.
Good. Thank you.
And voicings and
Thank
you see Carl Holmes, I said voicings.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Carl.
Carl stayed in my butt about playing parts and playing the parts right. And it was from there when I was playing with David Miles, we opened up for Alex Bugnon and Marion Meadows. Back in 1998.
Wow.
Marion Meadows
called
me up, said, hey, you want to come do some gigs with me?
Right.
And it just went from there. I played, I auditioned with Stevie Wonder back in 1991. Fortunately, I didn't make the band. I think and looking back on it, I think I was a little over my head at that time.
Because see, I was just getting ready. That was just leading into my next question.
Yeah.
The audition process for Stevie Wonder, Gladys, Alex, I saw Eric Darius. What is that process like? I mean, are you going in front of them? Are you just recording some music, sending it to them?
Well, it's interesting.
How does that work?
Interesting that you mentioned that. Okay, now first of all, with Gladys Knight, there was not an audition. That was real. That was very interesting how that came about. I do not remember who recommended me. Okay. But Gladys Knight flew in because Eli Fontaine Sr. had passed. Okay. And so she flew in because, Eli Fontaine Sr. was part of that whole Motown thing. So she flew in. She flew in for that. But beforehand, this person had given Gladys Knight my number. Wow. And Gladys Knight calls me. And so then she says, hello, can I speak to Gerard Gibbs? I said, speaking. Yes, I said, hello. Yes. I said, Gerard, this is Gladys Knight. I'm like,
oh my God. Okay.
So I'm being, of course, I'm on the phone. I'm like.
So how do you handle that? Okay, is it really Gladys Knight, or is this one of my friends trying to play a little prank on me?
There's Gladys. Gladys's voice.
Yes.
That voice.
Absolutely.
And just to make it because I know, we're kind of shot up on time, but the main thing is we did a rehearsal over the phone. That's how bad this woman is. We did a rehearsal over the phone, and then we came to the church, and I did the we did our little part. I played the song for her, but Stevie was a different thing. My buddy Nate Watts.
Yes. Love you, Nate.
Saw him last week. That's why I love him. Yes. I love him dearly. He wanted me to. He said, "Listen, we're going to fly you out to Los Angeles, and we want you to audition for Stevie."
Yes.
Now, for this situation, I had to learn.
You woke yourself up from passing out on the floor.
Yeah, and the thing is that. Here it is, I've been with David Miles for about, let's see, I was with David for about 4 years.
Oh, nice.
And then this happens because David played with Stevie too. So he, David was very, very supportive. He was very excited for me. He gave me some tips on, what to do.
Relationships.
Right.
Just
and
building
so
and keeping those relationships.
So the thing is that here's the test was I had like 26 songs, and I had to learn 26 songs in 2 days. That's why I said I was a little over my head.
26 songs.
I'm telling you, in 2 days.
Oh,
and so that's the reason why I didn't make the audition because. Speaking now, it was a lot.
Yeah, that's,
and
So I guess how does the quote unquote, average musician learn 26 songs in 2 days, retain what they've learned and then hit
Right.
the stage.
See,
You know, for
yeah,
back-to-back
everybody
shows.
has different. Everybody
Mhm.
has different. Everybody has different ways of doing
Mhm.
it. For me, unfortunately, at that time, my reading
Okay.
was not as good as it is now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because as I got older, after I got out of doing the whole classical thing, when I graduated high school, so now you gotta remember now. Here it is now, 10 years later.
Yeah.
I know almost 20 years later because I graduated in '85. So here it is now. It's 19. Well, it's 10 years later. It's like 1995.
Yeah.
So it's 10 years later.
Mhm.
So all that reading knowledge is pew.
Out the window.
You know, I just
Yeah.
I just sketch out little
Okay.
things, songs that we did.
Yes.
But I was younger then, and I did retain a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
rehearsed
Yes.
I remember with David Miles, we rehearsed every Tuesday at his house.
Wow.
Tuesday
Yeah.
was rehearsal day.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, because David Miles and Milestone was one of the hottest.
Yes, they were.
We were one of
Yeah.
the hottest groups around.
Mhm. Yeah.
We were gigging every weekend.
Mhm.
So
Yes. Yes.
so we were learning new songs every week.
Right,
Every
every week,
week you
yeah.
had to learn it and
Mhm.
learn your parts.
Right.
And so using that experience, I just did the best that I could with what I
What
could
you
do,
had,
what
yeah.
I could do at the time.
Yes. Yes.
But then I didn't, like I said, I didn't make the rehearsal. But then,
Mhm.
so that was 1995, 4, 5, something like that.
Mhm. Okay.
So 8 years later,
Mhm.
2002, I get to play with Stevie again.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
So I said, okay, so
how-
now,
how did this
now
go?
I'm a little more experienced.
Yes. Absolutely.
2002, I'm 35 years old. I'm, like I said,
So
a
you
little
got some
more
life
experienced.
experiences.
I've had some
Yes.
experiences.
Yes. Uh-huh.
My first child was just born.
Okay.
So I've been living some life now. So I said to myself, now I'm not blowing it
Not blowing
this
it this
time.
Absolutely.
I said I'm gonna
Yes.
be ready for you now.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes.
We're playing for the Paralympics. This is 2002
Uh-huh.
in Salt Lake City, and we're playing outside. This is October.
Mhm. In Utah.
And we are getting ready to go on stage, and it is raining. It is 34 degrees.
I was gonna say it's a little chilly. Yes.
So
Yes.
you can't wear gloves
No.
playing keyboards.
No.
So I'm trying to wear the cutout workout gloves, and I have pocket warmers,
Yes.
and then they have stage hands holding tarps over our heads so that the keyboards don't get wet.
yes,
We're in an
yes.
open air
Open-
stadium.
Yes. Yes.
They're holding tarps
Wow.
over Stevie and his keyboards and this, that, and the other. So I said,
oh my
I'm
gosh.
not going to blow this.
Yes. Absolutely.
I don't care what. So my job was to play the horn parts.
Okay.
So we are the first tune was Sir Duke.
Ooh,
So
yes.
dun dun
Yeah,
dun dun
uh-huh.
dun 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 dun
Absolutely,
dun.
jam.
Now
Yes.
again,
Yes.
it's 34 degrees. The
In
wind
Utah.
is and it's blowing wind and rain.
Oh gosh.
Stevie counts off the tune. Now the notes are right?
Yes.
Counts it off. Let's go. And I play
Oh no.
my
Oh,
fingers
yeah,
would
absolutely.
not move.
Yes, because they are cold.
I
They are
was
frozen.
crushed. I was crushed, Dawn.
How's the recovery from
So, yeah, and Stevie, oh, it's all
Yeah.
right, man.
that? Yeah.
It's all right, you get it next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although for me, there was no next
Next time, exactly. Yeah, because we are, our toughest critics and hard, on
And-
ourselves.
Right. And so, but, he was, in both cases, Stevie was very was very gracious, very
Wonderful.
kind.
Yeah.
He was never rude,
Mm-hmm.
never,
Mm-hmm.
pompous, none of that.
Yes.
Just a
Yes.
overall, just a
Mm-hmm.
great person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But my feelings was hurt that day.
Oh,
So,
I'm sure. I'm
but
sure they were, but like you
but
said.
by that time I had all the
Mhm.
experiences that I had. By that time I had played with Ronnie Laws. I was playing with Craig T. Cooper.
Mhm.
I was playing with a whole lot of different individuals,
Yes.
getting
Mhm.
getting my experience. By that time I was just starting playing with James Carter.
Mhm.
Um, 2002 was the year that we first started
Nice.
our
Okay.
world tour
Mhm.
as an
Mhm.
organ trio.
Yes.
So of course, next year will mark our 20th anniversary, and so we're really excited about that.
Beautiful.
So it's been a wonderful ride, a wonderful experience playing with all of these wonderful
Yes.
musicians. From Alexander Zonjic
Mhm.
to a lot of different folks that I've heard and played with.
Yes.
Played with Eric Marienthal, played with Nelson Rangel, just a whole bunch of different people, and it's just
Yes.
wonderful to be able to help make their music come alive. And then of course,
Yes.
I've done my own couple of projects
Absolutely. Yes.
as a contemporary group and an
Mhm.
organ trio. So
Mhm.
it's been great, man.
Yes, I'm loving it. Everybody, you are watching Jazz Cats on WJZZ Cool TV. We are live
Real
streaming.
Cats,
Yeah,
real.
cats here.
Real.
We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other social media platforms.
Beautiful.
Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. I am hanging out with one of my dear friends, brother, just all around
Amen.
beautiful,
Amen.
beautiful human being,
Bless you.
Gerard Gibbs.
Yeah.
So if you tuned in, you heard just a few people that he's worked with. This man's bio is mad crazy. Let's talk about the organ trio. I left the station a few weeks ago, popped in at Cliff Bell's because I had to come and support.
Bless you.
And watching you play the organ, and then watching you play keys at Baker's, two totally different styles.
Absolutely.
And like I told you, look, y'all, if y'all have never seen him play the organ, he should be arrested for how he handles the organ, because it's just, because the sound is just totally different. It takes you into just a different realm, at least it does with me. So how, because you play the keys kind of with the same energy, but you make love to that organ.
You know what?
And it's such a treat to watch you play the organ. So kind of how do you kind of wrap your head around, I guess, getting prepared to do a performance?
Well, it came from the mentoring that I received from my heroes that I used to listen to on the record. Richard Groove Holmes.
Yes.
I had a wonderful 10-year relationship with him. Jimmy Smith. I met him in 1995, and we had a great relationship until he passed away in 2005.
Yeah.
1996 is when I met Dr. Lonnie Smith. And so just being able to be around those individuals, I had a chance to be around Charles Earlin. As a matter of fact, Charles, when I this was around 2000. This was 2000. This was 1990. 1998. I was really developing a good rapport with Charles Earlin, and he was telling me, he plays in church every Sunday in Chicago, and he said, if you wanna come, I said, listen, if that means I need to take a train or a plane to Chicago every Sunday to sit by you, then that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So I was all excited. I was getting ready to go to Chicago. And then in December of '99, his wife wrote me back, Gerard, I'm sorry to report that Charles Earland passed away from a massive heart attack.
No.
And I was like,
oh,
you
heartbreak.
got to be
Yeah,
kidding.
heartbreak, yes.
Because I had just seen him that September. He was playing at the Bird of Paradise. I got a picture. I put it up on Facebook of me playing alongside Charles Earland.
Wow.
I was standing behind him. He seated at the organ. I'm standing behind him, and we're trading fours back and forth. And that's when I said, you know, I would really love to come hang with you. And so that's when all that started.
Wow.
And then 3 months later, he was gone.
Yeah.
So, like I said, 3 years prior to that, I met Dr. Lonnie Smith, and he did a gig at Baker's, and at that time,
oh, good Lord, to have been a fly on the wall.
Oh man!
Oh my goodness!
He did a gig at Baker's. No, I'm sorry, that was in 2000. That was in 2005, I think it was. Okay. And because I still have the flyer that he wrote his autograph on for me, says, "To Gerard, you are the future." Oh. Dr. Lonnie Smith, and I keep that right on my organ that I look at when I practice.
Oh, beautiful!
And
that's motivation.
It really is.
That's motivation.
I love Doc so much because he is truly a master at the instrument. He definitely, you're talking about somebody that can bring forth any kind of emotion out of that organ. He can do that.
Well, I mean, and you do a hell of a job.
Well, all I've been doing is just emulating my heroes.
Yes,
when I've watched Groove, when I've watched Dr. Lonnie Smith, when I've watched Jimmy Smith, I've met Jack McDuff. You know, I had a chance to I met Jimmy McGriff, and then some of my local heroes, Rod Lumpkin. Who else? I was trying to get next to him before he died. He had a regular gig at Earl Van Dyke. I was going to try to get, he was doing a regular thing at the Rhinoceros back in the day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he passed. And then, when the Limit was still here on 8 Mile and Greenfield, Bobby Cook.
Oh, Lord, you taking me back.
Bobby Cook, Perry Hughes, and Uriel Jones had an organ trio together on Sundays. So me and my dad would go there, and I would be able to watch Bobby Cook play. So I had some local folk. Rudy Robinson, another one. Charlie Harris, another one. Harissimo Cox, another one. Kicker Womack, another one. So I had all of these people that I would listen, that I could be able to look at live.
Right, exactly.
And I just pull from those experiences.
Yes.
And that's how I turn that into my performance at the organ. Me and my buddy, I call him Teach, Racy Biggs. He and I bought an organ together when he had his studio on the east side. And I used to go over there on certain days of the week when he wasn't busy, and I would go in there and practice. I learned a little bit of gospel organ, but I went to Mattie Moss Clark's gospel music school for spring. So I learned all that stuff.
So for us non-musicians, you mentioned gospel organ and I guess jazz organ. I guess so. What differentiates the two? And I mean, I know the sounds, are different, but
I think it's more of the difference is more approach.
Okay.
And delivery, because when you think about the whole jazz thing, even though you do hear elements of gospel in it,
absolutely,
you do hear elements of gospel in it.
You do.
But jazz is a little bit more it's more free, and it's a little bit more it's I don't want to say more expressive, because gospel
Right.
is just as
It's very
expressive,
expressive.
but
Yes.
it's a it's just overall it's a different, you can just tell sonically the difference
Okay.
between the two,
Right.
although there are a lot of similarities,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, there lies in there some inherent differences, just sonically and musically, between gospel
Right.
and jazz.
And I've seen the crossover, you know, from just many different musicians, not just keyboardists, you know, but just vocalists, guitar, bass, and what have you. Kind of thinking back, you know, kind of I guess on the start of your career, where you are now, what can we expect from Gerard Gibbs moving forward? You know, got new projects coming. With the world opening back up, I know tours are happening. I know you were all over the world with, you know, James Carter, Ralph Armstrong. So what's coming down the pipeline for Gerard Gibbs?
Before the pandemic hit, I was in the midst of preparing some new music for my organ trio. And this time I wanted to focus a lot now on my own compositions, my own creative writing. You know, the first project, way back in 2002, we did a lot. I think I had a couple of originals on there. One
Very
I did.
nice project, by the way.
One, I bless you. One called "Let's Go" that I dedicated to Groove, and then another one I dedicated to my good friend Bill Hyde, another great jazz organist who I met back in '87. He lives in D.C. now, but the name of that song is his name is Bill Hyde, H-E-I-D. That's how he spells his name, his last name. And so I wrote a song for him called "Hide and Seek."
Oh.
And so it's kind of a response to a song that he wrote called "Psyops," which is this little D minor situation, a D minor blues situation. So I wrote my song a half tone higher and put a cute little change at the end, and I dedicated it to him because he's a big Larry Young fan. So his whole approach to playing organ, you definitely hear a lot of Larry Young's playing in there, just like he is like a Larry Young disciple, like I'm a Richard Groove Holmes disciple. But getting back to what you were saying, so what I wanted to do on this upcoming project is I wanted to do something that features more of my writing. But unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, that shut a lot of that down in terms of now getting into a studio.
Right, absolutely.
And then, of course, as you know, a recording project is not an inexpensive feat.
Yes,
it really is not.
And
I'm not, I'm just the type where, I would rather take my time and put it out, or just wait until I get the necessary monies that I need so I can put out something good than rushing towards putting out garbage.
Just to say I've got a new project
out. Just to say I got a new project out.
Absolutely.
And then dealing with the whole, and this is another 25-hour conversation, dealing with the whole piracy thing. And,
yes, absolutely.
You want to sell product, but then as soon as somebody uploads your stuff to YouTube, it's a wrap.
Yes.
So it's been a little discouraging, but
So how do you stay motivated? I guess, how do you keep going? And not just throw in the towel and say, to hell with it, I'm going back to a 9-to-5.
You know what? I'm so glad you asked that, because there have been many times when the gigs haven't been coming in like they're supposed to, and I, looked at maybe going back to the city of Detroit, because I was working as an architectural engineer for the city of Detroit. That's what my degree was in.
Right.
And that's when I decided to take that step out on faith back in December of '03, and leave that and be a full-time musician. What has kept me going, to directly answer your question, is just simply the love for the music,
Yes.
and because I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you know, as with all things, you have ups and downs.
Absolutely. Yes.
And sometimes it doesn't look good, you know, when your mortgage is due and your car note is due and your kids are hungry and the gas bill is due and all that, and you got to buy clothes and food and all that and finance college and all that kind of stuff. But the life continues. But the consistent thing that I have always seen is that God has never hung me out to dry.
Yes, absolutely.
He's never hung me out to dry. It felt pretty close, but just when you think you're going to be in serious trouble, he comes through. So I'm just so grateful to him that he has supplied all of my needs. And I'm just very grateful for that. So I mean, that's what's kept me going. And then my other motivation is, you know, my wife and my children. They're counting on me.
Yes.
And so if I give up, what am I teaching my sons if I give up?
Exactly.
So I'm not going to give up. And we're just going to do this. I'm in it to win it.
Yeah, well, we're glad. I can speak for myself. I'm glad you're not giving up.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said, you're one of my favorites to see.
Bless
you know, the organ trio, and then you got the funkier side with Wjzz.
Right.
And you know, the madman on drums.
Oh
you
yeah.
know, Mr. Jabari.
Oh yeah.
You know, and cool dude. You know,
Carl.
And everything. You know, and will you come out with the project with Wjzz, or is the focus just primarily the organ trio?
I think this time I'm going to focus primarily on the organ trio for right now, because it's been a while. Well, it's been a while for both, because my last project was 2005. So. And I
love that picture, by the way.
Oh man! Oh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun doing that record, and I do want to get back in there. So I'm hoping that by the time, you know, things open up and we can get back into the studio, I definitely want to do that because, you know, I can state for the record, I mean, the music that I want to do is ready. It's ready.
Right.
I've done all my pre-production work. So that, you know, I can share with my guys, this is the concept. I mean, I've written out my charts. Like I said, everything was ready. But then when it hit, when the pandemic hit and bills still had to be paid, the money that I had saved for the studio had to go. You know, I had to pay the mortgage. I had to pay my car note. I had to pay all the other bills. And so I had to kind of start over.
Yeah, like we all did.
And say, yes.
You know, like a lot of us, you know, me, booking agent.
Oh, man. You was just getting started.
I had 4 shows I was working on. And actually one of the shows I was working on was with Wallace Roney.
Yes, God rest his soul.
Working to, you know, he and I had been exchanging phone conversations and trying to get him to the Blue Llama. You know, so we were getting there, and God decided it was time for him to come home.
Amen.
And, you know, and I'm like, oh God, you know, had the pleasure of working with them, with Miles Smiles.
Right, with Ralph.
You know, when they opened, with Ralph Armstrong, when they opened up
Joey
for
D.
Brian Culberson back at Shane Park back then. It's the Aretha now. And so when COVID hit, and it was like my calendar was like empty.
Everything went to pot.
And it's like, okay, you know, I had several losses in my family during that time.
Yes.
Got laid off from work, you know, and it's like, and kind of like you know, I'm like, screw it, 9 to 5, you know, to hell with being a booking agent, to hell with being a manager and stuff. But it was like, I can't let it go. You know, it's in my veins, and and I'm glad things are kind of picking back up again. Thank goodness.
Yes.
I'm back to a 9 to 5.
Sure.
But that's to fund the other side of my life.
Right. That's exactly what I was doing.
Yes, and I mean, you have to make those things happen. I don't have a family; it's just me. But still, I still have a house, a condo to pay for. Insurance and everything, and and thanks to God, that sustained me to keep me going.
That's
where
right.
I didn't give up.
That's right.
And now the opportunity, to be back behind the microphone, and everything, to hang out with cool people like you.
Bless you.
I mean, I see you probably just about every week,
Oh, yeah.
Your, residency.
Going back to work tomorrow.
At Baker's, and as we were talking in the, in the lobby before the show, George, I was driving and I'm like, what was the name of that play that he was in? He's an actor too, everybody. He's a thespian.
Ah, man.
And The Devil's Music.
Thank you, Mickey.
The Life and Blues of Bessie Smith. Mickey Brayton. Love you, girl. So how did that come about?
You know what? It's funny how that came about. We had just changed drummers. Leonard King, my buddy, he decided that he wanted to start his own orchestra, which he has done, Dr. Professor Leonard King Jr. Orchestra.
Wonderful.
And so he wanted to do that, and so we brought in who we call the engine, Alex White,
Yes.
Playing drums with us now. And so one of the first gigs that Alex did with us was when Mickey was singing with us at the Blue Note in New York. And so that was in 2015.
I've got to get there.
And so a couple years, about a year or so later, Mickey called me up and said, listen, my piano player is, moving on, doing some other things, and I want you to be my piano player for my play. I was like,
wow.
I said, but Mickey, I'm not an actor. But you know how Mickey is. He said, "Oh, that's some bullshit." You know how Mickey is. Mickey is so raw. She's my scorpion twin.
Love her to pieces.
And so she got me. She got me in, and she showed me the music, and then in February of 2017, we did the play. In Ventura, California, and then later on in September of that same year, we went to Washington D.C. And did the play.
Yes.
So it was a great experience, and
I
I thank Mickey so much for that. Because now I have a whole new appreciation for what it takes to put on that kind of a production.
Absolutely.
Now when I look at movies, I look at all the credits now because I have a firm appreciation now for everything that they do.
Because back in the day, before me getting into the music business, I have a cousin, who was in the business touring and, and everything. And like a lot of people, I go to a concert, I'm like, oh, they just plugged in some speakers and plugged in some lights and things like that. No. Or looking at the CD covers or reading the album, covers and, things like that. So I, like you, I have a different appreciation for musicians, actors, actresses, or what have you, because it's a lot of work.
It really is.
Because
it really is.
I
There's
was
a lot
of the
stuff
mindset,
that's what the public doesn't see.
Exactly. And I was of the mindset, usually pretty much every show I talk about this, I'm thinking you go in the studio, record your 7 or 8 songs, 9 songs, it goes off to be printed into a CD, and then here it comes.
Oh, if it was that simple.
And so when I was hanging out in the studio with Ralph when he did his last CD project, and that process to just get one song,
see,
and I was like, Okay, why are they playing the same song? This is like the 14th or 15th time they've played this one song. And so I was talking to Ralph, and I'm like, he's like, no, because something didn't sound right. This was off. This was, and I'm like, really? You know, so I have a whole new appreciation for musicians and what you guys do.
You got to remember, you know, if you record that mistake, once you print it, that mistake is permanent.
Correct.
And then you can't go back and say, well, at this point, this is what I meant to do. I meant to do this at this point.
No, and it cannot.
You can't.
You know,
you just can't.
Yeah, and it cannot be erased and everything, you know. So I thank you, you know, for your craft.
Bless you.
Because like I said, if you guys have never seen him perform, please, when you see Gerard Gibbs and the organ trio, please make a reservation.
As a matter of fact, I'm playing with Sean Dobbins. I'm doing an organ trio thing with Sean Dobbins at Cliff Bell's at the bottom of this month.
Serious. Oh, and my other favorite human.
Yes.
Sean Dobbins.
Sean Dobbins, that's my buddy.
One of the sharpest dressed drummers on the
ain't
planet.
that the truth? Ain't that the truth? So yeah, the last Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of this month.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday
Okay.
of this month. We're gonna be at Cliff Bell's.
Yes.
So
Now, will you be doing anything for the Jazz Festival?
not this year, because we did it last year. We did that thing, the virtual thing last year.
Yes.
So I think
who did you perform with last year?
I performed with 3 different people. I played with Dr. Professor Leonard King and his orchestra. I played organ for him. I played keyboards for Racy Biggs.
Okay.
And then organ again with James Carter.
Wow.
So it was a busy week. I played once a day. I played once every day. So
that is amazing. So I'm glad, that it's back outside this year.
Yeah.
I'm loving that. I'm so happy to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gerard, thank you so much.
You are more than welcome.
Bottom of my heart for coming to hang out and
That's
spend
how
some
we
time
do.
with
That's
me.
how we do.
To learn about you and, because we see each other and, we have jokes.
Oh, yeah, you know that.
We have jokes that I cannot share. But it's all good.
Yes,
the
it
fun
is.
is there.
It's wonderful.
Love you to pieces.
Love you more.
Much continued success.
And if you want, I'm playing with Ralph Armstrong tomorrow and Saturday at Baker's Keyboard Lounge every Friday and Saturday, except for the last Friday and Saturday of this month.
Yes.
So we're there from 7 to 10. Come check me out. I'm playing keys.
Yes, come check
Or the
me
organ
out.
trio thing with Sean Dobbins, the Sean Dobbins organ quartet, I believe it is. Organ quartet. Cliff Bell's.
End of the month.
I don't have the dates. It's 26, 27, and 28. No. It's
29th, 30th,
and 31st. Yep, 29, 30, and 31. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I'll be with James Carter in Flint at the Flint Jazz Festival August 1st.
Oh, wow. Oh, and that's another one that is just a show in itself to watch perform.
Man, I've learned so much by being with James. I can't even tell you. By being with James, and when I first joined James, Leonard was very instrumental in helping me, help me, get me on board with the 3 of the, to help bring the cohesiveness together.
Beautiful.
So I'm here to publicly thank my buddy, Dr. Professor Leonard King. Here to thank James. For being patient with me, and love y'all, man.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you everybody for watching Jazz Cats on Wjzz Cool TV. Make it a great weekend. Stay safe. Love you all. Thank you so much for the support.
Yep. Peace and blessings, y'all.
Peace and blessings, everybody.